Hey, 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 fam bam, what's up? It's your girl Santina, and I'm back with another video for ya. So I hope everybody is doing well on this beautiful day that the Lord has made. I'm so thankful and grateful to have the gift of life yet one more time, and I'm thankful that each and every one of you were blessed with the gift of life as well. So thank God for that. So today, you guys, I want to do a video that a couple of people have been asking me to do. I actually thought I already did this video, but just in case I didn't, or even if I did, it's okay. I don't mind sharing it again. But some people have asked me to do a video talking about what it's like being a legally blind single parent. And so I just decided today I'm just going to go ahead and, talk about it with you guys. And, so please feel free to comment. Please feel free to share your story, whether you're legally blind, you're in a wheelchair, whatever. If you're somebody who has a disability and you raise children as a single parent with a disability, I would love to hear your story in the comments, or even just if you're a single parent. Just being a single parent in itself is tough. So if you're a single parent, just I would love to hear from you in the comments, and I would love to hear your story. So yeah, you guys, please make sure to comment, and also make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow the Facebook page, follow the TikTok page, and just, show your peoples some love, and some support. And I'm so grateful to each and every one of you who support our channel and support our pages. Thank you guys so much. Your support is everything to us. It means so much to us. And I'm just so, so grateful to each and every one of you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so let's get into the video. What was it like being a legally blind single mom? Like, what are some of the obstacles I went through? What are some of the things I had to overcome? Maybe what are some things that I regret not being able to do? We're going to talk about all of that, okay? All right, so first of all, being a single mom in itself is not easy. How did I become a single mom? Well, my son's father and I were in a relationship, of course, but he turned out to be very abusive. And I did share a video talking about how I was in a domestic abuse relationship. So if you would like to, go down the our timeline and just check that video out, you can have some more details on that. But because of him being abusive, we could not stay together. So that is how I became a single mom, right? So was it tough being a legally blind single mom? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Although it's tough being a single mom in itself, being a single mom and having a disability, it just adds to the the hardships or the difficult things that you go through with just caring for your child by yourself. Now, I am thankful that I did have somewhat of a village to help me in some instances. But for my family, pretty much, I was around my foster family, the last foster home I was in. I was around them when I had my son. So pretty much they would help me as much as they could. You know what I'm saying? Just like, if I needed to go to the grocery store when my son was a baby, I did have that help. I didn't always have that help, but in the beginning, I did have a little bit of help. And plus, me and my son's father, we didn't separate for good until he was 2 years old. So for the first 2 years, or I say really a year of his life, his father was kind of there helping. You know what I'm saying? So, but for the majority of being a parent, I was a single parent. So yeah, that's what happened. That's how I ended up becoming a single parent, because of, we weren't able to coexist raising our child together, and so we just had to end it there. So what kind of obstacles did I face being a single mom? Well, of course, it was, difficult for me to get around to do the things that I needed to do. Like I said, for the first couple years of Michael's life, I did have a little help, but eventually, when people go off and go on about their lives and do what they need to do for their families, they have children, they got husbands and wives, and they're trying to do what they got to do for their families. They're not really able to be there for you like they were, like they once were. And so it took a lot for me to have to try to do certain things on my own, and it was tough. It's tough when you can't see well enough to get in your car and drive and go to the grocery store, or go to the clothing store, wherever it is that you need to go. It's hard to do these things even without a disability. If you don't have a car, you can't get around. It's frustrating, right? But just imagine you can't get around because you can't see, or you have a disability. It's tough, And I do feel like, it was tough on my son as well. It was tough on him because there were things that he might have wanted to do, but because I was not able to make that happen for him, it was tough on him as well. So it was very rough, you guys. And then I took it a step further and started moving to different cities and states by myself. Because growing up in foster care, growing up in the system, being in different families, I pretty much had to adapt to however that family dynamic was. It was like, hey, this family is like this, so I have to adapt to that. The next family I was in was a different way, so I kind of had to adapt to that. So I feel like, I haven't heard any other children or people who grew up in the system really say this, but I'm sure that if anybody's watching who grew up in the foster care system, or grew up in, just the system where, hey, they weren't around their family, they've been moved from home to home and things like that, they would agree with me when I say, when you become an adult and you get out on your own, you have to try to find yourself, because throughout all of these years of going from this home to that home, to this group home, to that girls home, boys home, whatever you were in, you've had to adapt to these situations. Each one was different, so you had to adapt. So as an adult, it's like, okay, who is Santina? Where do I fit in? Who is my circle? Who is my family? Even though my foster family was my family, don't get me wrong, but it was like, I didn't have any roots. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have any roots to depend on, or to look at, or to, to just,
that is
be a part of. Hold on, y'all. Okay, I'm sorry. That thing just started talking. I don't know. I got to turn my phone on vibrate, because my phone heard what I was saying. It'll probably still talk anyway if it feels like it. But my phone heard what I was saying, and it started explaining, like, what it is to grow up in foster care, and then you're trying to find yourself, you're trying to find your roots, you're trying to find your circle, you're trying to find your people, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, but what he was saying, I feel like I should have let it play, because what he was saying is exactly what I went through. So, but anyway, it's after I became an adult, I'm trying to find myself. Okay, I love music. I learned to write music. I had an album. Let me move to Atlanta to try to see if that's where I belong, and see if I can get myself together to be an artist, so I can sell my music and become a music artist. You know what I'm saying? Let's see if that's the way to go. Okay, that didn't work. So then I moved back to Detroit. At first, the first place I moved was to what is it? Memphis, with my son's father, because I'm like, okay, I want my son to have his parents because I didn't have mine. So let me see if I can do whatever I can do to make sure that he has what I didn't have. That didn't work out. So what did I do? I moved back home, start all over. Then next thing I know, I'm moving to Atlanta, trying to get my music off the ground. Maybe this is where I belong. Maybe this is where I fit in. That didn't work. So I go back to the drawing board. Then some of my family ended up moving to North Carolina, and they started a church out there. And I'm like, okay, well, I got some family. At least I got family out there, and I got a church home. I didn't have a church home at the time. I wasn't going to church, and I missed church. You know what I'm saying? And so let me move out there and be with them and go to church. And, maybe I can start some roots out there and, build my family dynamic out there. And that didn't work out the way I wanted to. So then next thing you know, my pastor tells me that my best friend is supposed to be my husband. So we get married, and then I moved back to Detroit with him. And I really didn't want to live in Detroit, but then God moves us here, and now here we are. And God has already showed me that this is where I'm supposed to be. So I'm just now in a place where I'm starting to get comfortable with, where God is taking me. And as a single parent, my son had to go with me through all of these changes. He was with me when I went to Memphis. He was with me when I moved to Atlanta. He was with me when I moved to North Carolina. And then when I moved back to Detroit with, my now husband. You know what I'm saying? So it was tough. It was tough on us. And even my friends, that I grew up with, all my blind friends, they're like, I really admire you for being able to step out and just go to these different places and try to find yourself. Because that can be scary, being visually impaired, and you're moving somewhere where you really have no family. You don't really have any help. You know what I'm saying? You're just trying to find yourself, trying to figure it out, because growing up, you just been attached to everybody else's life, and you need to try to figure out, where is your life? What is your life? What does that look like? So they actually were very proud of me for stepping out and trying to find myself. And being a single parent while doing that, it was tough. It was tough. Because when you move to another city or to another state or wherever you move to, and you don't have a support system, that can backfire on you. And it happened to me. Moving to Memphis with my son's father, I didn't have anybody to stand up for me, or I didn't have anywhere to go to get away from him. So I was stuck there until God blessed me with my sister to come and get me and bring me back home. When I moved to Atlanta, it was a very shisty place that I was living in called Riverdale. They didn't have public transportation. So I'm depending on the hopes to making a good friend circle or support system or whatever, but that was not it. It wasn't. People took advantage of me. They took my kindness for weakness. They felt like because I'm visually impaired that I'm dumb and they can just take advantage of me. And there were times when I literally had to choose to go back to suffering whatever I was going through versus having help, because I'm not going to let nobody feel like, well, I need them, so I'm going to just let them do what they want to do to me. I had to walk in Atlanta. I had to walk 1.5 miles to take my son to and from school every day. 1.5 miles there, 1.5 miles back. And I met this young lady who carpools kids from our complex because she lived in the same complex. She offered to start taking my son too. And I'm like, okay, wow, thank you, you know. And she was taking him to school, and I had to pick him up because she didn't have room to take him home because she had to go pick up her husband, whatever. So I would still go and pick him up from school. She would drop him off, and she would charge me like maybe $10 a week to do that. And I find out that I'm the only one paying this lady. She's taking these kids to and from school. The rest of them, because she's been taking them to and from school. So by her taking my son along with the other kids, she couldn't take him back home because she needed room to pick up her husband after work. So it wasn't fair for her to tell somebody else whose kids she'd been taking back and forth every day, hey, I just got this new kid that I'm taking to school. I need you to start picking up your kid. No, it was me that had to do it because my son was the last person that she started picking up. So I'm the only person that's paying her. And she did a lot of other stuff too, you know, that was not related to, you know, my son. So I'm not really going to go into all of that because that's kind of, you know, that's a whole nother story. But this was just about me trying to get my son to and from school. And I literally had to stop taking the ride, even though it was something that was very, very much needed and I appreciated it. But you're not going to take advantage of me just because you see that I need the help. And, you know, I'm opening up and telling you that I'm visually impaired. And, you know, it's kind of tough trying to get my son to and from school. And in her shiesty little mind, she's thinking like, oh yeah, she blind, so she's stupid. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why people think that, but that's the way she was thinking. And so I ended up having to walk my son back to and from school because I'm like, man, you're not about to do me like that. And like I said, it was other things too. That wasn't the only thing. It was other things that led up to that had nothing to do with my son. So it was like that was the last straw for me. So I'm like, no, ma'am, I don't need your help no more. You can go and try somebody else, you know. So I had to let her go. Then I had another person who had offered to take my son to and from school. And it's crazy because this man was a pastor and he was cool. Him and his wife, you know, how I always got a ride was we would be walking down the street and somebody would pull over with a car full of kids. They had the same uniform on as my son. So I know that they went to the same school as he did because it would be kids with the same outfits on. You know, oh, you need a ride. You know, most of us carpool the kids. So, you know, if you need me to take your son to and from school, I can do that. So, you know, everybody that I jumped in the car with really did have kids that went to that school, and so nobody got over on me by like kidnapping my son or nothing like that, thank God. But, you know, it was tough because it's like, okay, these people are literally going to the same place. And like the lady wanted to charge me. The other man, the pastor, he didn't charge me, him and his wife. Only reason why I was comfortable getting in the car with him is because him and his wife was there and they were both telling us, you know, hey, yeah, we got a couple kids. And they took a couple kids to school and they did good. They would pick my son up. We all lived in the same complex. Pick my son up. And then at the end of the day, they would pick him up from school and drop him off at my house. But I'm kind of I don't know what to call myself, I guess overprotective parent. So even though somebody is helping me with getting my son where he needs to go, I don't just put that responsibility on them. You know what I'm saying? Like every day, in the evening time, I would call this man when it's time for the kids to get picked up. I would call him. And if I didn't get an answer, I'm walking my tail up to that school because I don't want my son to end up getting left. I don't want a chance nobody forgetting about him. I don't want a chance, you know, anybody being funny and don't want to take him home and they're not answering their phone. And then the school called me and say, hey, nobody's picked up Michael, or he's just walking home by himself, whatever the case may be. No. So if I call that man and I know it's time, I will call him to say, hey, you know, I was just checking to see if you were picking Michael up today, or do I need to pick him up? I just never depended on nobody like that. And if he did not answer, I'm getting my butt up and I'm walking up to that school. But he never played me like that. It's times when I was walking on my way and he pulled up on me and beeped the horn like, hey, I was just on my way to get the boys, you know. But I'm just not, I'm very, very protective. And so when it comes to my son, yeah, I literally, if I don't hear from the person that's supposed to get him, I'm gonna go figure it out. I'm about to go walk up there and get him. So it's times where he done picked me up and we done went up there together and picked up the kids because he done seen me walking, you know. So, it's like, you know, I always think of anything that could happen. Like, oh, maybe he picked up his son early and forgot to tell me and I need to go get my son. You know what I'm saying? So I always acted as if it was still my responsibility to make sure my son got home. And that's how you're supposed to be, you know? So, but I stopped getting rides from him because he started to show little signs of, you know, being interested in me physically, and I wasn't going there with that man. Heck no. And these are Africans, not to say anything about them being Africans, but I'm just saying a lot of African women don't play about their husbands. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could tell that this woman, because I've been around them, I done been to their house a few times, like we were all cool, and you could tell she was the type that really didn't trust her husband or trust women around her husband. She was cool with me, but I could just tell. And I'm like, I ain't trying to have no smoke with this man, wife. I don't even like this man. I ain't getting caught up in no marriage situation, no foolishness. So I just stopped allowing him to take my son to school. And I started back walking him. And I'm sure his wife probably eventually was wondering, like, what happened to Santina and Michael? They don't come around anymore. But I never told her anything. So it just be situations, y'all, where I just never felt comfortable with people helping me because of their intentions not being as pure as I hoped they were, you know. So yeah, I just when I was living in Atlanta, eventually I ended up going back home because I had no support system there. And I got to the point where I couldn't trust people in my area, in my neighborhood. So it's like, girl, just go back home. This ain't it. You know? It's not it. So we went back home. And, you know, I moved to North Carolina. And I had trouble there because I actually had a person who was, you know, paid by the Medicaid company to take me where I need to go, help me clean my house, help me with whatever I needed help with. And me and this person got real cool. We became friends. And then it was like, somehow she ended up expecting me to still pay her, even though she was not doing her job. She was not doing her job. Like, I ended up still having to pay Uber to get places I needed to go. But then every Friday she's coming to me with that paperwork in her hand for me to sign for her to get paid, but she wasn't doing anything. So eventually I had to fire her, and then here I am back at square one trying to figure things out. So I dealt with a lot being legally blind, as, you know, being a legally blind parent, because the support system was just not there. Like, I could never get that support system together. You know what I'm saying? So I really commend people who have a very strong support system that helps them through things concerning their disability and things like that. I'm so happy for you guys, because it is tough not having a support system. And so there were things that, okay, let's talk about how my son did in school. You know, most children need support from their parents, you know, when they're going to school and things like that.